We began today's show talking about the ongoing efforts to search and rescue people from the flooding in Texas, particularly in Kerr County. Unfortunately, the death toll has risen to 104. But amid such tragedy are some inspiring stories as well. A credit to people who were able to act swiftly to save lives so that the devastation wasn't worse. One of them, along with his colleagues in the Coast Guard, was a rescue swimmer whose name is Scott Ruskin. He's credited with saving 165 lives in Texas. And this is his first mission. He has been doing some interviews. And again, he is not the one taking the credit. He is talking about what he and his team did as first responders are wont to do.
The Coast Guard launched us and decided to send a rescue crew from Air Station Corpus Christi at about 6:30, 7 a.m. on Friday, the 4th of July. I just happened to be on the duty crew with Ian Hopper, Blair Rougefort, Seth Reeves, some of our crew members in the Coast Guard. And they sent us out. We kind of encountered some pretty serious weather, some of the worst flying we've ever dealt with personally. It took us, which should have been an hour flight, probably took us about 7 or 8 just to get into the landing zone. Once made about 4 different approaches trying to get in, we were able to get boots on the ground with the Air National Guard, Department of Public Safety for Texas, game wardens. And we decided to leave me on scene at Camp Mystic. That was kind of our main triage site we were trying to help out with. And we decided, hey, if we leave the rescue swimmer on scene, we'll have more space in our Dolphin MH-65. So based on that, I got on scene, boots on the ground at Camp Mystic. Kind of discovered I was the only person there as far as like first responders go. So yeah, I had about 200 kids mostly, all scared, terrified, cold, having probably the worst day of their life. And I just kind of needed to triage them, get them to a higher level of care. And get them off the flood zone with a lot of the US-60 Army helicopters. No, this is my first one. Haven't had any cases before. I've been a rescue swimmer for about a year, fully trained for about 6 months. So yeah, this is my first experience, but I really just kind of relied on the training we get. Coast Guard rescue swimmers get some of the highest level training in the world. So really just kind of relied on that, and that, just knowing that any of the rescue swimmers in the Coast Guard would have done the exact same, if not better than me. So
training is one thing.
Yeah, this is definitely the real deal. But I just remembered that, when I got on scene, there was, 200 kids looking to someone for some sort of comfort and safety. They don't really know what my experience is or my rank or my age. They just know, hey, this guy's a professional and he's here to help us. And I kind of had to live up to that standard. But yeah, the real heroes, I think, were the kids on the ground. Like, those guys are heroic, and they were dealing with some of the worst times of their lives, and they were staying strong. And that helped inspire me to kind of get in there and help them out.
The flip side of that sort of offering is people try to understand what happened and make as much sense of it as can be made. Ask legitimate questions of authorities and responders and the infrastructure associated with trying to prepare for and respond to a natural disaster. Another way to do it is the way that George Stephanopoulos did. Immediately.
Maria, we're also learning that there were significant staffing shortfalls at the National Weather Service's offices in the region.
George, as of right now, the local county officials really didn't want to address that just yet. What they are telling us is they expected between 4 and 6 inches of rain. That is what weather experts told them, the National Weather Service as well. They also knew that in remote locations, they might get anywhere from 8 to 10 inches. But this amount of rain in such a short amount of time, it was very difficult to navigate. And when the Department of Homeland Security Secretary was here just yesterday, she acknowledged this was an issue. She was going to take these concerns to the White House as well and try and see if there was anything they could do to revamp the system. She says the president is committed to it.
I'll tell you what, it was very entertaining to watch that correspondent on the scene in Texas not wanting to take Stephanopoulos' bait, not wanting to be associated with blame Trump for what happened, which is where he was going. Stephanopoulos must still be smarting from that $15 million payout and apology that ABC had to offer President Trump, at least if they wanted to settle, which they did, to settle the defamation claim that was lodged by Trump against George Stephanopoulos and ABC. He must still be smarting. Now he's trying to blame a natural disaster like this on Trump, something Trump responded to in terms of this canard about the National Weather Service and staffing, saying, look, this is the National Weather Service I inherited from Biden, but I'm not blaming Biden for this either, because to do so would be silly. But of course, being silly is not above George Stephanopoulos. For more on this, pleased to be joined by Neal Pollack, senior editor for the Spectator's U.S. edition, the author of 12 books of fiction and nonfiction, including Edge of Safety, A Future Tale of Arbitrary Lockdowns and the Deeply Caring Citizens Who Love Them, and a 3-time Jeopardy champion. That's impressive. He also lives in Central Texas. Neal Pollack, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hi, Dan. Thanks for having me.
So you wrote a piece for The Spectator about this very issue we were talking to. I was mentioning at the end of the run-up here, which is the politicization of it. And it's the usual stuff. If only government were bigger. It's white Christian conservative children and families, as if somehow race matters in these situations. And then lastly, climate change. That's what almost immediately you get from the expected quarters, that cavalcade of responses.
Yeah, the first thing I saw when it became clear that a disaster was unfolding was that the Trump administration, DOGE, had cut budgets to the National Weather Service. So therefore, this hadn't been forecast properly, and it could have been prevented. But in fact, I mean, it just wasn't true. I mean, we were seeing warnings about this the day before it happened. Our local meteorologists in Austin, where I live, were warning that there was going to be heavy rainfall in Central Texas, and that flooding was not only possible but probable. And the National Weather Service itself issued alerts starting at sort of 1 p.m. on Thursday. And the problem is that this happened in the middle of the night. That the flooding really kind of came. It was crested, especially in Kerr County, like 5 a.m. And the National Weather Service didn't issue its big emergency until 1 a.m, and people were asleep. Is what it comes down to. But I gotta say too, like Kerr County, that's a Republican county. That's 75% voted for Trump in the last election, and those officials also in the press conference were also trying to blame the National Weather Service. So the blame was flying around over the weekend because people were still trying to figure out what was going on. But it definitely wasn't the fault of federal government budget cuts.
Right. And I mean, and climate change, again, I mean, given the history of the hill country in Texas that we know, and frankly, even the UN's own report on the negligible, indecipherable impact, if any, that quote unquote climate change has had on river flooding in North America. It's just another sort of opportunity for people to prosecute their own political hobby horses rather than just be a human being in responding to this.
Yeah, I wouldn't put this on climate change at all. I mean, the flood alley in Texas stretches from San Antonio. So there's a swath that goes from San Antonio through Austin up to Dallas, and flooding has been a problem in Texas since before it was Texas. I mean, it's simply a geologic fact. And as the area has grown more populated, it's become more deadly. But there were deadly floods in Kerr County in the 80s. There are records of it going back, way back, and I feel like the real issue here is that the state didn't have a good enough warning system in place. Kerr County had not sort of built up its infrastructure because it had been 40 years since there had been a flood magnitude. They just weren't prepared in terms of local warning systems and flood infrastructure. But that doesn't have anything to do with the weather, which periodically flares up. As it has throughout human history.
Well, the other thing too that has been mentioned, including by residents or those who have had experience when they were young, on the Guadalupe River and in some of these summer camps is, well, the other thing is, we do get flash flood warnings, but we get flash flood warnings a lot. So you become a bit inured to them. You don't the timing of the more significant ones being overnight when all these kids were asleep and kids and adults were asleep. That's one issue. But the other is you get a bit inured to them. I mean, it's another flash flood warning. We get it. It's going to rain and we're going to have some flooding, but you don't appreciate the magnitude in this instance.
Yeah, I mean, I think there needs to be some sort of a siren system, some kind of, I don't know. I mean, this is not my area of special expertise, but the state government had a chance to approve funding for sort of advanced warning systems for natural disasters this year. And in fact, a Republican representative from the Panhandle was proposing it because he'd seen his region devastated by fires last year, and he thought that maybe the state needs to upgrade it, and legislators didn't approve it. So I think that when it comes down to it, the fires in Los Angeles, the floods in Texas, the floods in North Carolina, these are geographically and politically diverse regions. Weather and natural disasters don't care who you voted for. They don't care, what your opinions are about various issues, right? Stuff happens, and there are certain things that I feel like people across the political spectrum need to just stop arguing about and come together and establish, guidelines and basic safety protocols. And I think we have to put politics aside as much as we can in these situations.
Yeah. Neal Pollack, senior editor for the Spectator's U.S. edition, the author of 12 books of fiction and nonfiction, including Edge of Safety, a future tale of arbitrary lockdowns and the deeply caring citizens who love them, and a 3-time Jeopardy champion. What was your last final Jeopardy question? Or answer, I should say.
I missed it because I had to lose my.
Well, that's why I figured.
Well, I was just on Pop Culture Jeopardy on Amazon Prime.
Oh, you were?
In January, I played with a team, and we got it right. We didn't win the game, but we got it right. It was basically it was a question that asked where Beyonce was from, what city Beyonce was from, and that of course was Houston. And then the one I missed was about a city that the Danube flows through, and I wasn't aware of Bratislava at the time, but I'll never miss a question about Bratislava ever again.
Neal Pollack, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Dan.
He joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank, a bank where relationships still matter. I'm Dan.